Hello and welcome back to Deserve 2020, A Better Tomorrow Today. You'll see that I'm sure you see that I'm currently sitting on the driver's side um, of my vehicle, pulled over for this interview. So you guys are getting some really raw and real conversations with us today.
That's right.
Um, and I think there's no better position for me to be in, considering who I'm interviewing currently. Dr. Marlon Johnson. Hello, doctor.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing good. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself to the people?
Absolutely. So I am Dr. Marlon Johnson, and I serve as an assistant professor of counselor education and a licensed professional counselor here in Austin, Texas. And so, yeah, been in the professional field for about a little over 6 years now. As a professor, a little under two, and so yeah, it's a joy to be with you all today and to talk a bit about all the things that are happening in this world today and how we can manage it.
Awesome. It really has been a little under 2 years since you've been working as a professor in Austin, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't feel like it's been 2 years. It feels like it's been 2,000 years, but time will do
Wow.
that.
I did not expect that perspective. Um, because the time has flown by for me. Um, but yes, I'm sure you're doing amazing work there. I'm sure they are so grateful to have you because you're such a gem to that field and to all those around you. So we appreciate you taking this time out. If you guys haven't already experienced, if you're watching this and you haven't already experienced one of the meditations that Dr. Johnson presented to us one of these mornings, or maybe his talk, if you haven't experienced it yet, when you do, you will thoroughly enjoy. I want you to show up with your pen, show up with your paper, and come ready to create some plans for yourself. He gave us some great tools during those talks, so you wanna take note. That being said, we're going to dive right into these questions. We've been asking the different presenters for Deserve 2020 um, a few of the same questions, and then of course some pointed questions directed at what they do. The first one, the first one that I would like to start with is the one that we've been asking everybody right out of the gate, and that is, what brought you to this work, and why are you so passionate about it?
So it's interesting when it comes to mental health care and even to being a professor. If you had asked me when I was a kid what I would be doing at this age and at this time, I would have told you, well, I'm going to be a medical doctor and a medical researcher. That was my goal in childhood. I was certain that I was ready and built to be a doctor of some sort. But I realized as I got older and I started going through college that I enjoyed doing things like um, being in science labs. I enjoyed learning about chemistry and biology. But what I didn't enjoy was the sensation of being disconnected. And I had always been a listener and always been someone that was empathic and genuine and connected and caring to other people. I mean, I cried very easily when I saw injustice in the world, and it was very obvious to me that I was called to do some type of advocacy, some type of engagement in justice work. But I was actually on a mission trip to the Bahamas with my campus ministry at the time, and the short of the long is that I had a big blowout wrestle with God about what does it mean for me to be on this trip and to feel so much dissatisfaction of wanting to support people, wanting to love on people, but also like wanting to be a doctor. And like, why am I even doing this when I'm just dissatisfied with all of my schoolwork? That there's something that's missing. And had a very like clear and audible response of, um, well, you're meant to listen and to love. That's what you care about in the medical field. You want to be a listener in that way, and to heal people's hearts, but not necessarily do surgery on them. So I was like, who does that, God? It's like, I don't know, a psychologist, a counselor, and it immediately my career path changed. And so it was very easy for me to put all the pieces together and realize that there's just something beautiful about being heard and being seen. And that led me down the pathway to becoming a counselor and a licensed professional counselor. And then to really specialize my work around working with children and adolescents and giving them voice, engaging in career development and rural identity experiences. And then also to think about what is it like to be someone who identifies as queer or trans or just even questioning sexuality and sexual identity. All of those experiences just kind of coalesced into my passions inside this field. And so, yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much for that. Uh, wow. So I was going to ask you one of the other questions that we've been asking the group, but your answer has led me to dive right into the questions that we have pointed for you. And one of those questions is, why do you believe that mental health is such a taboo subject in rural and the southern U.S. communities?
So, I was born and raised in South Carolina and have always been very proud to be a South Carolinian. I love the food. If you tell me about the best place to get boiled peanuts, it's always going to be on the side of the road. I'm a small town boy. My mom and dad grew up in nice farming communities where everyone knows everybody. And the joy of that is that you have a really strong community where you can connect to other people, where you can feel like you belong, as long as you kind of go with the motions and you do things as people understand and expect it to happen. But at times, you might come into contact inside these rural spaces where maybe you experience something a little different, or perhaps you're a little bit more sensitive than other people. Um, Maybe you experience a traumatic event and it doesn't rattle the community as much as it rattles you. And I think that there's an experience inside of rural communities where we've had to be very strong. We've had to be resilient. Um, my father talks a lot about growing up Black inside of the rural South and not being able to be soft, not being able to be gentle, um, to be anything other than strong in particular moments, because that means that you're not going to be able to take care of your family, that you are going to be put on the outs when a job comes up or when people see you as competent or able, and the opportunities are sparse inside of these spaces. And I also think that part of growing up in the South and growing up in rural spaces is that there is a sensation of what does it mean to go talk to a therapist about something versus your pastor or to a community leader, right? To your family. That that again, that if you fracture or you mar that reputation, that perspective of who we are, and are we resilient? Can we handle the hard times? Can we pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? That when we encounter those challenges and we aren't able to overcome it, well, that might have deep ramifications for your reputation, your perspective, whether or not you are being faithful enough to your work, to your God. Um, and so the stigma around depression, around anxiety, around responding to the traumas in our world, there's a lot of stigma about, can you handle it? Are you resilient? Are you strong? Um, and do you trust that if you can't handle it, that God will take care of it? Um, and so I think that to talk to someone outside of your family, outside of your community, outside of your home, um, is often seen as a very taboo experience. And so mental health care doesn't quite align with a lot of really important and strong cultural values inside of rural communities.
Thank you. Um, so, with that said, what would you say to a young community member maybe they're queer, maybe they're not, maybe they're a person of color, maybe they're not. Um, but what would you say to one of those young adolescent or young adult community members, um, or even those of a more advanced age who are looking for ways to seek out help? You're looking for ways to better themselves and to secure their own contentment and their peace, um, and to better their mental health in one of those regions.
Um, so I think one of the things that I often start with is this experience of um, helping people to settle into their bodies when they're thinking about seeking help. And I like to tell clients or even colleagues or peers, like think of a time where you connected with someone that you had something that you needed to share, like a big secret or a big surprise that you just really wanted to share with someone that was important to you, that felt intimate with you. And like really nestle yourself inside of those feelings. What did it feel like to share a deep secret with a close friend, or um, to be able to have someone celebrate a joy with you, or even to be able to just say like, I'm tired, and have someone put their hand on your back and to give you a warm touch, or to help you realize that that everything is going to be okay. um, Sometimes we just encounter those hard moments, and it or those beautiful moments, and we don't want to experience those things in isolation. And a lot of times when we think of those good feelings, we want to rush to our family members, our community members, the people that know us really well. But a lot of times they might misunderstand us and misconstrue their experience with us. And so when I think of counseling, when I think of therapy, when I think of working with individuals in a mental health care setting, um, it's an opportunity for you to be able to have that openness, to be able to process that joy or that hurt, or to share that secret with a person that um, genuinely wants to walk through that experience with you. And it may feel like a challenge to find the right person, or to engage in the right space with another person. Um, but the beauty right now is that uh, we have so much access to telemental health, and telemental health that's affordable. Um, and so I encourage people nowadays that if we are unsure about reaching out to people, or if it's affordable, if they're the right people, every community, every single rural space has at least one person that does counseling, that has at least one person that um, can support you inside of your mental wellness. And so yeah, look for those people, look for those letters, LPC or LMFT or LCSW. um, Look for those people who are willing to engage and to support you in that. And if they don't seem to fit inside of your community, go online and look there, and look for someone that might be a good fit for you.
Thank you, and also thank you for providing practical help by listing how we can find professionals who can help us um, with bettering ourselves in those areas. Thank you for that. How do you secure and protect your own contentment and your own um, peace? How do you go about that, Dr. Johnson?
Uh, well, it's not always easy. There are times where I get tired. I deal with anxiety often and constantly, and it can be really crippling for me to experience peace and contentment. Um, Again, I was told by my mother and my father very young that I'm a trailblazer. You got to keep going. So contentment was not the move. But for me, as I've gotten older, I realized that in order to maintain my peace, I need to designate time for myself to do things that stop me from trying to be ambitious and trying to better myself, my community, my students, my clients, and to just take a breath. Right now, I'm reading a book called Memorial, and it's just a beautiful story that helps break up all of the experiences that are happening inside of my world. It's this wonderful queer love story. It also talks about HIV care and what it's like to have partnership and families and all of that stuff swirled into one. But it's a nice way for me to break from being professor, being son, being doctor, being all of these things to just immerse myself into a world. I love to sit outside and to just look at the leaves as they're blowing through the trees. I enjoy
That's
cooking
precious.
and baking. I, yeah, I just enjoy calling my nieces because they don't really know what it means to be a professor, but they know that Uncle Marlon is out in Texas hanging out with people. And so it's those simple things that help to maintain my peace, to engage with people who are both in the profession with me, to talk to them, to but then also to talk to just people who aren't in the profession, who aren't in the circle, or to just sit and be with myself and to read or to look and to see that the world is much, much bigger than who I am and the chaos that I experience in the day-to-day life.
I'm so glad that we asked you to be a part of this conference, and I'm so glad that you said yes. Because considering everything that's going on um, throughout the nation, most likely going on in your own personal life and with your own family, as you all deal with distance between the Carolinas and Austin, Texas, a pandemic where you're not able to just travel as you'd like. I am so appreciative that you've taken this time to give. We're so grateful for you. So I've got two more questions for you. The first one is, why do you believe that we should be, well, firstly, I guess it's a two-parter. Do you believe that we should continue the conversation surrounding HIV care and prevention? Is it necessary for us to continue talking about that in 2020? And then the follow-up would be why, whether your answer is yes or no.
So the answer is absolutely yes. HIV is not eradicated. There are new infections every day. And the communities that continue to be the most vulnerable, that continue to have the least amount of resources for ongoing care and prevention, traditionally are Black and Brown communities, right? They are communities that come from rural spaces, that are from lower SES statuses, socioeconomic statuses, right? And so this is this is still an issue. This is still a problem, right? And even thinking about Black women, trans person, they're all being affected at rapid rates, and so the work is not done, right? We still have so much more to go to ensure that nobody has to worry about um, how someone's status might impact them or their ability to live or to maintain a normal quality of life. Um, because maybe they're thinking about not being able to afford medication or continue counseling and to do the things that are helpful. So yes, I absolutely believe that this conversation is still very relevant.
Thank you. Lastly, when you hear the phrase, I dream, speak, and receive victory, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Mm. First thing that comes to my mind is gosh, community, honestly. Um, I think when I hear the word victory, I don't think of an individual overcoming by themselves. Like when I see someone that's victorious, um, they are in community, they're connected, that people celebrate, right? Like I might celebrate some of my personal victory, but I immediately want to go tell someone like, oh my gosh, look at this wonderful thing that's happened, right?
Right.
And so when we talk about speaking, it's the same thing. When we talk about dreaming, right? It's this wonderful quality of the imaginative experience that is yet to come into fruition. So yeah, that's immediately what comes to my mind when I hear that.
Dr. Johnson, it has been a joy working with you, building some of this content as you presented um, or prepared to present it for this upcoming week. I thank you so much. I thank you so much for taking the time to answer these questions with me. I am so grateful for your perspective. It's such a beautiful point of view.
I
Thank
appreciate it. I'm grateful for this conference and for all the good that it's doing, and for everyone that's tuning in. Thank you. Let's keep doing the work. Let's keep learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, with that, thank you all for tuning in, as he just said. Thank you all for taking the time to register for this conference. Continue to enjoy. And as we've always said, and as we continue to say, the comment section, the chat box, whatever you want to call it, it's always open. So throughout this week, when you have questions, no matter when you have those questions, no matter when you have those thoughts, enter those questions right into the chat box. Enter those questions directly into the comment section of these videos, and we will be sure to respond. Um, the presenters themselves are reviewing them. I'm reviewing the questions. All of our different team members here at I Deserve Inc. are reviewing them, and we're going to get you answers. If we don't have the answers, we're going to get you the resources to get answers that you need. We are excited, just like Dr. Johnson just said, about building a community that supports one another as we grow together. Whether we're discussing HIV prevention and care, whether we're discussing family dynamics, whether we're discussing physical health and some other means, or maybe it's mental health, whatever it is, we want you to live in total life prosperity. We want you to experience wholeness. And that only comes by using your resources. No man is an island. So we've got to help one another out. I am so grateful for you all. I'm grateful for you, Dr. Johnson. That brings us to the end of this segment. Have a wonderful day.
Yes.